On this week's episode of the Cedar Log, we are meeting with Len Brownstein, who has been involved with scouting with 55 years. He has much to teach about Jewish scouting and scouting as a whole. Please sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Alrighty, so I guess, do you want to introduce yourself so folks know who
Well,
you are?
I'm Len Brownstein. My role in scouting is the chairman of the Jewish committee. I was involved with the old Frontier District. It's now Roosevelt District. And I've been in scouting for 55 years. So that's basically my background. I just got off the phone with John Bickle, and we're going to talk about doing stuff for summer camp. Because I also am the treasurer of the Shrine Scouting Association, and we raise funds for the three scout councils in our Shrine Oasis. So it's Chester, Cradle Liberty, and the old Bucks County, which is now Delaware, whatever the name they George Washington Crossing. Okay. So anyhow, you sent me a list of questions. I can go through them with you. You want to ask me questions and I can answer them however you want to do this.
Alrighty, okay, I can definitely go through them. That's quite the tenure in scouting. I didn't realize it was 55 years.
Yeah,
so when did you
55
first?
this year.
Oh my
Pardon?
goodness! Congrats on 55 years. So when did you first join scouting then?
It was either 49 or 1949 or 1950. I was a Cub Scout for maybe a year or so, and then went into scouting. So I guess those days you had to be 12. So that would have been 1950. I got
Okay. So you were a Cub Scout for like just a year. So I guess
just a year. Yeah.
You would have been like a AOL, like using today's term. Okay. So you kind of got into it when you were a little older, but then still young enough for all of like scouts. So very good. So did you ever join the OA at all?
Yeah, I'm back in 53.
Oh, okay.
And I got my brotherhood at summer camp in I guess 82.
Oh, gotcha. And then which lodge did you join?
Unami.
Very good. So did you do all of like your ordeal and brotherhood at TI, or did you do
At
anything?
TI, yes.
Oh, okay. So you got the full Ion experience. Very good.
Yep. So I was on the island, and that's when I got the ordeal. And then as a camp leader back in early 80s, one of the volunteer, I guess, camp masters, whatever they were called, grabbed me and said, you're going to go and become a brotherhood this week, and wouldn't let me go until I became brotherhood.
Oh,
Got into brother.
goodness.
So that was in 82.
Okay. I think
Not
there's
very active in the OA. I was as a kid, but not as an adult.
Okay. What'd you what'd you do as a youth in the OA then?
In those days, it was really run by the adults. So what was I? I would go on to work weekends, and that was basically it. I never really got active.
Okay. Gotcha. But I mean, going to the weekends and helping out is still good. Didn't know if you were a chapter chief or something like that.
No. Don't
Okay.
wish that on me.
Gotcha. So,
yeah.
Oh no, you were saying.
Just basically in the OA, I was just a member, and that was it.
Gotcha. So I guess what was your overall experience in scouting as a youth?
As a youth, well, we would camp for the summer. We'd go to Treasure Island for 2 weeks. And 2 years we went to Hart, summer camp at Hart, cook your own kind of stuff. And then we always went camping. We were always going up to Hart or to Daniel Boone homestead, or well, in those days we had the camp that was on 611 at Briar Estate. So we would do weekend camping at Briar. And also they had a merit badge class every Saturday at Briar. So I would hike up there and take merit badges.
Sounds like a good
something that I
experience.
miss, and I think the kids would also miss it today.
Mm-hmm.
So
Sounds like a pretty good experience.
it was a lot of fun. In fact, I am still very friendly with guys from my old troop as a kid.
Oh, very nice.
We go out for lunch every 3 or 4 months, but because of the pandemic, we missed that. So, and it was the kind of thing where we would go from house to house, pick each other up, and walk up to the troop meetings. So
Okay.
kids can't do that today. So it was just a lot of guys that were, that I'm still friendly with, and enjoy each other's company. It was always a great time.
That's awesome that you guys are still in touch, and hopefully soon you guys will be able to go back to having lunch together.
Well, we can do it now if they're, if the restaurant that we go to, you can go inside. It's a little too cold to eat outside, but we'll get there.
Yeah. So you said you went to Hart for 2 years of summer camp. So were you on the east side of Hart then, or?
The wilderness side, which I guess was what, the east side, or I'm not sure which side.
Yeah, that would have been the east side then.
East side, yeah. We had some great scout leaders, or I had some great scout leaders that loved the outdoors.
Mm-hmm.
And we would go from there. We would take a hike down to Somebody Town.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
Very
it was, So we had a good time. We used to go up winter camp at Hart and ice skate on Unami.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
That sounds like fun, though.
It was. It was a lot of interesting times we had. So, in fact, when we would go to camp at Hart in the winter, we would stay in what is now the Rangers barn. That was that they had the second floor with cots up there, double deck cots.
Okay. You actually stayed there. See, I knew scouts stayed in there, but I haven't heard any stories of people actually staying in Hart Lodge. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It was good. You had the big fireplace going. They would sometimes put Dutch ovens on. We'd cook there. They had huge table for downstairs, and it was. And of course, in the wintertime, you could do whatever the winter activities are.
Mm-hmm.
These are things that come back.
Yeah, that seems like it would have been a very suitable cabin for winter camping.
Yeah,
that's awesome. I've always been curious about people using that building for that.
Yeah.
So since you went there probably in like the 50s, do you remember the Capitol campaign at all, and them redoing the camp at all?
No, I don't remember doing any of the construction. I was never involved with it. I had a scout leader who was an engineer and built bridges, and he had put a quote in to build a bridge over Unami Creek. But and he told him how to lay it out and how to do it, and what the cost would be, but he didn't get the contract. So
okay. Gotcha. Yeah, I guess you would have been pretty young as a scout then in the grand scheme of things. So that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I got out of, I stopped going camping in 55 after the flood of Treasure Island. So
gotcha.
Because I had joined the Navy and was working, and just didn't have have the time to, go to scout meetings. But I stayed registered through 62 when my troop folded.
Okay. So what was your unit number then?
169.
Okay. And then what
And
institution were y'all sponsored by?
Congregation Emmanuel. It was a Jewish sponsored troop at Old York Road in Stenton. There was a synagogue there.
Gotcha. So the synagogue isn't there anymore then?
No, it's a church now.
Okay. So for your unit, was it predominantly Jewish boys or was it?
It was predominantly Jewish.
Okay. Okay. So I'm guessing y'all kind of had more, instead of like a scout zone, did y'all have more like at your weekend camping? Did you do Jewish services then?
Well, we had services, but that was basically, it was just I'm not going to say a token service, but it was, we didn't go through a full 3-hour Saturday morning service. So, it was basically about maybe an hour, and everybody was off doing their thing.
Gotcha. Okay. And you guys especially used the Jewish chapel at Hart, correct?
You know what? I don't remember. I don't think it was even there.
Oh.
I mean, it could have been, but I'm not sure. I don't know when it went up.
Oh, that would make sense.
I don't know when they got Corman to build it, because it's called Corman Chapel. I don't know when it was actually built.
Gotcha. Well, that was probably part of the capital campaign. Now I'm thinking, I'm connecting everything. Yeah, that was probably capital campaigns. That makes sense. Okay.
Well, the Corman family, who were builders in Philadelphia, put it up and sponsored it and paid for it.
Oh, okay.
But I don't know when.
Gotcha. I'll have to look into that.
For the last I saw it, it was really in disarray. Really needed somebody to go over it. Our group worked on it probably in the late 80s, early 90s. We cleaned it up a little bit, but I don't know what happened to it after that.
Gotcha. I guess it's another thing for me to look into. So you mentioned some of your buddies from your troop. Was there anyone in particular that had a lasting impact on you?
Well, I guess it would be, a number of the older scouters, because when I got in right at the beginning of the Korean War, a number of the guys that I was now friendly with, were either being drafted into the service or in college. But the two adults that I can really remember was the assistant scoutmaster, who had no children, married. His name was Herman Grosser, and Dave Rosen, who was the scoutmaster. And Dave had a beer distributor, and he had a big open truck. So we'd go camping, and he would drive in the truck. Now, in those days, you could sit in the back of his open truck and go camping. You couldn't do it today. But and Herman was the kind of guy who would make sure that you got things done and help you. And he was just a scouter. And so he would be probably those two, plus the guys that I'm friendly with today, who are older than I am. They would have been the assistant scoutmasters, and just shape your career, shape your life. So
sounds like two incredible men.
Oh yeah, that's why we're still friendly.
Yeah, I don't blame you there. It sounds like they're really good guys.
Oh yeah, well, one of them is Murray Saltzman, was a lodge chief.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Yeah. So we're friendly. In fact, I'll see him tonight on a Zoom call that we have. So.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
And did you ever work on camp staff by chance?
Not as a youth. I worked as a volunteer,
Mm-hmm.
you know, 2 week or 2 weeks during the summer back in, it had been in the early 2000s when Treasure Island was still, still around.
Gotcha. That kind of sounds like Phil Hittner. He usually comes up to Heart and volunteers for a little bit, like usually a
Uh,
week.
do you remember a fellow by the name of Frank Mayer? He was called the mayor of Treasure Island.
I've definitely heard that name before. Yeah.
Well, he was involved with me at the shrine.
Oh, okay.
So we would go up to summer camp, up to Treasure Island the same week, and there was a whole bunch of us from the shrine that
Mm-hmm.
became camp on the camp master staff uh, at Treasure Island, and
Mm-hmm.
also we would spend 1 to 2 weeks at the summer camp as volunteers. So
Yeah, it's really nice that you were able to keep those connections and y'all were
yeah,
able to share so much in common.
right,
So you mentioned the flooding of TI in 55.
right.
Did you want to kind of tell that story in full, or what was that like?
But it was as a kid, you just don't realize what was going on. But in those days, they had a troop. Each troop had a designated area to patrol along the
Mm-hmm.
river. Make sure So we always stayed in up on the northern end, uh, and so we had the river watch, and it was and the river would be coming up, and they took us off the island, so couldn't take anything. I
Oh.
grabbed a backpack, and in those days, what we did as scouts, we would get the old orange crates or apple crates
Mm-hmm.
and break them down and take them with us to camp, put them back together, and that was like a dresser. So you could take your clothes out of the foot locker, or I always went up with a backpack and put my stuff in those bins, and I was able to grab my backpack and some of the clothes and leave the island. So uh, and but I came back a couple of weeks. We had a no-way weekend back. I guess it was a couple of weeks after the flood, and you saw all the debris and everything. Just that came down the river, and it was basically because of some of the dams broke above, and all the construction that went on ate up the farmlands, and no place for the water to seep, so it ran off into the streams.
Oh goodness, I never knew what caused that. That's kind
Yeah.
of crazy.
So I mean, basically, that's what happened. It was everything that all the construction upriver. So, and it was a big flood. You know, you still have the high water mark on River Road.
Yeah,
Have you ever seen it?
I think I've seen some photos of that watermark, and it was very shocking to me.
How high that river came?
Yeah, I just can't fathom it, really.
Just picture what the houses look like along the bank.
Oh goodness, that
So,
must have been a whole mess.
yeah, but that was a long time ago, and I, just really don't really recall everything that went on, other than the fact that we had the water, the nighttime patrol, that
Mm-hmm.
every hour or so, another scout would walk the banks looking. So
Gotcha. Oh, and you also mentioned Briar.
yeah,
So you took merit badges there, and you guys did some weekend camping. Was there anything else you guys did at Briar?
it was just weekend camping, day hikes. If you wanted to take your from where I lived, it was a 5 mile hike. So we would get guys to take the 5 mile hike in first, I don't know, second class, the first class, whatever requirements were. And but they always had somebody every weekend up at Briar teaching merit badges.
Very nice. I heard they also had I guess like outdoor skill training and stuff like that. Did you guys ever do that?
Not that I can recall. I can't. It just doesn't ring a bell.
Okay. That would have been later, I guess, in Briar's history. But that's cool that you were actually there. I actually collect different memorabilia from that property. So
Right.
it's very nice to hear someone who was actually there and got to enjoy the property.
Well, it was a convenient place to go weekend camping, or Saturday mornings for merit badges.
Mm-hmm.
We had camporees there too.
Oh, very nice.
Okay.
Very
From
nice.
I was in Northern District at that time.
Oh, okay. And then you mentioned that you left scouting in '56 and then you joined the Navy. Is that correct?
I had actually joined the reserves back in September of '55.
Okay.
While I was in high school. And so the weekend reserves ate up my camping, and then 2 weeks in the summertime ate up my going to summer camp.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't get back into scouting until my oldest son was old enough to become a scout.
Mm-hmm.
So that was in '79. I got back into it.
Gotcha. I haven't thanked you yet, but thank you for your service.
Oh.
Always appreciate when folks serve us and serve the country.
Yeah.
So you got back in '79 with your son joining Scouts. So what was that experience like? Like finally coming back and getting to live.
I got pulled in as an assistant scoutmaster immediately, and was involved mostly with the camping, and so we would go to Treasure Island. Was just coming back on board back then, and they were not doing cooking, so you had to cook your own. So we got the first year at summer camp was 1980. We did our own cooking, and then 81 on we ate in the dining hall. So it was, but it was a great experience. I really enjoyed going back to Treasure Island, especially as a leader. So it was a good time.
Yeah, like a lot of old memories coming back and getting to share something with your son.
Right.
It must have been very nice.
So it was good. As a leader, it was, you'd walk around and make sure everybody was doing what they had to do.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. And do you just have one son, or do you have other children?
Well, my youngest, I don't know if you know him. He's Gary Brownstein. He's in OA. He's he was involved with the Scout. He's got his, what's he have? The third one up. He got Ordeal, Brotherhood, and
Vigil.
He's got his Vigil.
Oh, okay.
But he's not as active anymore as I would like to see him be. But
gotcha. I've definitely seen him around then, or at least seen his name.
You probably saw his name around. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm about to say, especially in like the Vigil book or somewhere. That sounds very familiar. Gotcha.
So it would be nice if you guys can get a hold of him and drag him back out. So
sounds like it's another thing I'll have to add to my list, dragging him back and
list of things to do.
Yeah, exactly. So when it comes to your families, what has like your family's overall experience been with scouting?
My family?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was involved. My older son was in for about 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Then he dropped out, and the younger one went in, Gary, and he's still registered. So he enjoyed it. We would go camping together.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, as when the kids were young, still in elementary school, we would go up to the Poconos and do
Mm-hmm.
weekend camping. I would pack up the car, and the three of us would go up and put up a big wall tent. And
Mm-hmm.
soon she'll.
Well, that's nice. The three of y'all were able to go camping together and spend time together.
Yeah, I'm on a Zoom. I'll be up shortly. So that was basically it. We did that, and then when they got into scouting, we gave up the family camping and did scouting, scout
Gotcha.
camping.
So you mentioned you served on the Jewish Committee on Scouting.
Yes,
So how long have you been doing that?
since the early '80s,
Oh, good.
about '82, I guess. That's when it was still two councils.
Mm-hmm.
And Merv Sluicer was the chairman of the Philadelphia Council. And I got involved because they had a weekend retreat, and I got pulled into it, and stayed with it ever since. So when they merged the councils, they picked a neutral chairman, and he did it for 3 years, and then I took over. I've been doing it ever since.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
So is there an annual retreat for the Jewish Committee on Scouting?
There is. We have what we call a kines, which is the Hebrew word for retreat, and we would in October, some weekend in October, we would go up to a camp, rent a camp, and have all kosher food, do everything that you're supposed to do for Friday night and Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
Stay over till breakfast on Sunday and come home.
Gotcha. So since you've been on the committee since the 80s, what changes have you seen in Jewish Scouting, like numbers of scouts or units?
The numbers are way down. Unfortunately, the synagogues have been merging, and it's an older population. You don't see the younger population staying basically in the city, and once they get into the suburbs, it dispersed. Unless the synagogue is really anxious to put scouting in, which most of them are not anymore, you really can't find the Jewish youth like we would like to. So what we do is offer camperships. We'll pick up 50% or so of the cost of a camp. Kids going to camp, cub camp, day camp. And last year, because of the pandemic and not having any summer camp, we offered a scholarship, $500 to one youth for, but they have to be an Eagle Scout. So, and we've been paying for religious awards and the retreat, so, but it's hard because we just don't have the numbers and you can't find them. And the unfortunate thing from where I'm sitting is that if a boy is in a non-Jewish sponsored unit, they're not considered Jewish. So the numbers that we have are only reflected of boys that are in Jewish sponsored units. So unless the scoutmasters, cub masters are willing to help you, we can't find them.
Yeah, it sounds like a very hard logistical barrier or like obstacle to get over.
Well, yeah, because one of the things I think they're afraid of is, if you find them, you're going to steal them and take them out of our unit. That's not the case. We just want to be able to give them the money that we have.
And then encourage the religious elements and all that good stuff too.
Right, and let them, encourage them to get their religious awards. And but unfortunately, we just don't have I'm not going to say the lack of cooperation, but you just don't have the understanding of what we're trying to do. So.
Yeah, there seems to be a lot of that with some unit leaders. Like, I guess they mean well, but like you said, they think you're gonna steal their youth and, you know, bring them to other stuff. The OA runs into the same problems too. So,
sorry to hear that.
oh, it's all good. We usually try and, you know, get folks out, and we find different ways. But well, I'm glad the Jewish Committee on Scouting can be so active and provide all this support. Seems like the committee's pretty well organized from what I've seen.
Yeah, well, the other thing is we have a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we'd like to give it away.
Oh yeah, that's always good.
But you don't have anybody to give it to. So we need the cooperation of the council to help us get whatever literature we have out to, to the public, so that Jewish parents could take advantage of it. And maybe some of the other scout leaders and cub leaders would help us, disperse some of this. In the old days, they had the newspaper that they mailed. Today, you got to be on email, and I don't know, how many people from troops other than the leaders, I don't know how many parents are signed up for email versus just the leadership.
Yeah.
So.
No, that makes sense.
But if a newsletter was sent to the parents of, like it used to be, but then again, that's an expense that nobody can afford anymore. So at least it got into the house, and if the parents wanted to look at it, they could. You have to be active to want to get the email.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Sounds
so
like oh, you were saying?
It's a catch-22. And because everybody's got computers today, or not everybody, but 90% or 99% have computers, and they can sign up for email, but nobody wants to get their emails loaded with what they consider stuff that they're not going to look at. They don't sign up.
Gotcha. Sounds like I will talk to Phil, since he's one of the co-advisors of the history committee.
Okay.
I'll talk to Phil about different, how do I word this? I guess moving into like modern age of like how to disseminate that kind of info and stuff.
Well, it's not Phil as much as the council has to be willing to want to do it.
Gotcha. Well, I think I have some ideas of stuff that like we can do, like,
yeah,
and I can help out if need be.
Okay.
That's what I mean. Like, there's some stuff that we can do.
All right, but I need to get the council to send out a constant contact kind of thing of here's our flyer, and here's what we're trying to do, and just blast it to everybody you have an email address for. So if they read it, they read it. They don't, so be it.
Gotcha. Well, best of luck with that. I think things will work out in the end.
I hope so. Because like I said, we have a lot of money to give away and nobody to give it to.
Well, now when I meet any Jewish scouts, I'll be sure to tell them, like, hey, there's campership money.
Yes.
Go get it. So now you got at least one person who will talk y'all up. So I'll do my best to help out too.
If you do our advertising, I appreciate it.
Yeah, I can definitely help out and let folks know.
All right.
And then, were there any other stories that you wanted to share? Anything else that you wanted to talk about that we possibly missed?
Did I hit all your questions?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. Well, I really, I think I covered my history in scouting, or at least the beginning and the end. I was a kid in Scouts, got in 49 or 50, stayed in through 62, registered, and I really dropped my activity when I joined the reserves back in September of 55. Then when I graduated from high school, started working, my weekends were tied up with the reserves, and I was going to night school, and started temple at night, and so my evenings were tied up, and that took me through 62, and then sort of when the troop folded, I really dropped. I was basically out of scouting until my oldest son went in 79. I went back, and I've been at it ever since. Both as a scout master or assistant, a scout master, troop committee chair. I was a camping chair from Frontier District. I was a cub master, camp master. I was at Treasure Island. Never did anything at Russica. Never camped there.
Okay.
As a kid, we went to either Hart or Treasure Island because I was in Philadelphia Council versus Valley Forge or Great Old Liberty. Great Old Liberty, we went to either Briar for weekend camping until they sold the grounds off, Hart, Treasure Island in the summertime, and that was basically it.
It's still quite a track record with scouting, though.
And enjoy it. I sort of miss the camping, but in this day and age, I'm not laying in the ground anymore.
That is very understandable.
If I laid down, I wouldn't get up.
Some days I feel like that. So
no, I'm saying that if I lay down, I'm going to need a bunch of guys to help pull me up.
Yeah, gotcha. Well, thank you so much for all you do with scouting, and thank you for taking some time and talking with me today.
Well, good luck with your project, and you'll have to let me see it when you're all finished.
I will be sure to send you everything. I'll make sure I email you and call you.
Okay. Well, you got my phone number, you got my email address, so stay in touch.
I will.
And did you do anything with that list of Jewish sponsored units that I gave to Phil?
I've looked through it. I haven't started writing anything. I'm still kind of perusing like my own thoughts and what I want to start like digging in for. I'm trying to finish up the Catholic scouting of the history of Catholic scouting thing that I'm writing right now. So once I finish that, I'll move on and give Jewish scouting its like proper amount of attention and time.
Well, what you ought to try and do is get a hold of the council records down, what used to be down at 22nd Street, because I know they had all the records down there, and at least be able to get some of the names of the troops and where they were located based on the numbers that I gave you. At least you'll be able to build some kind of a history.
Yeah, I gotta.
As to when they started, when they dropped, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, the council has some yearbooks from Philadelphia Council going back to the teens and 20s that I gotta scan and peruse. Okay. So I think I know where some of the stuff you're talking about is. I just have to go there, and with the committee, we gotta scan a lot of stuff.
Well, I went down at one time and got all of my troop records. 169. So I got, and I copied them. So I got a Xerox copy of everything from 1937, 38 up till 62.
Oh, wow.
All the registrations. So
wow. That's a
If you
lot.
want to look at that, I'll show it to you.
Yeah, I'd love to see those.
Okay. So anyhow, so that's what I have. And if those records for all the troops that I mentioned are still available, uh, all you need is the first and last year that you can find for them. You don't
Mhm.
need to go through every year
Yeah.
unless you're looking for specific people.
Yeah, I'll definitely make sure to try and track those down in the council archives. I have to figure out where exactly they might be, but I'll
Yeah.
try and find them.
All right. Well, good luck. Good luck with your project, and thank you for everything you're trying to do.
Oh, thank you. No problem. I have too much fun doing this stuff, so it's not even like
Good.
work to me.
Red's not work. Okay. Do you go to Millersville?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So what are you
Yes.
doing home?
At home, I'm usually working every summer at one of the council camps. So I got hired for Rusca this summer.
Oh, good.
And I try and stay active with my home unit 367 as I can. But I graduate this May, so that'll be nice. And then soon, a few weeks after that, I'll be off the Rusca. So
Oh, very good. Well, enjoy your time, enjoy your summer. You're still young and you got a lot of things you can do.
yeah, thank you. And have a good evening, sir.
You too. Take care.
All
All
right.
right, bye.